Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as 50 hours, but hey, it's something. Don't have much housekeeping to do for this episode. Actually, I don't really have any at all, so let's get right into the news. First, let's talk about some tariffs. Remember the tariff episode I did? Yeah, well, as it turns out, Trump didn't watch that episode, as Trump has decided to do his tariffs again. I didn't want to comment about it initially because I was just waiting. I was just gonna wait it out, see how long it takes for him to revoke the tariffs. But either they're already here, or I don't really know. I don't even know if they're actually quote unquote here. He said oh, it's Liberation Day, which is also a weird thing because he said that his election day was Liberation Day, but then he said, oh, the day that I did these tariffs, it's actually Liberation Day. And so there are a lot of things that have happened because of these tariffs. And one of the big things that a lot of people first point out, that all of these tariffs are stupid. Particularly, many people, not just the ones that say, tariffs are stupid in general, or not just the ones that say that Donald Trump's specific tariffs are stupid, but also people even going so far as to point out the fact that some of these tariffs are on places that literally don't have people. Literally, there are islands that do not have people living on them that are being tariffed. So it's what is he tariffing? People have pointed out the fact that these tariffs are already raising prices a lot. Apparently, according to this Reuters headline that I can't read because they paywalled it, at least on my end, they say Trump's tariff so fears a trade wars, recession, and a $2,300 iPhone, which led to a funny thing about the gaming industry that happened. Because if you don't know, the gaming industry is pretty much really heavily based on foreign-made products, like Japan, and Nintendo literally just announced they were going to be releasing their Nintendo Switch this year, their Nintendo Switch 2 this year, their newest game console, and the asking price was $400, and launched a pre-order ready, but the day after, they immediately had to say, hey, we are delaying the pre-order date until all this stuff is sorted. So it's wow, literally just immediately, the day that Donald Trump announced his tariffs, 900 factory workers just lost their jobs. 900 American factory workers lost their jobs. So it's Trump has already brainwashed his cultists by saying expect hard immediate troubling. And then all the conservative accounts that spent the entirety of the Biden administration saying eggs went up 1 cent. Now all of a sudden are guys, chill out. It doesn't matter if eggs are going to be $500 more. Trump says really stupid ahistorical nonsense. For example, at one point he said tariffs are, if we had tariffs, there would be no Great Depression, when most historians say that the higher tariffs are what led to the Great Depression. He talks about how William McKinley, with his tariff-based economy, was so good. Everybody loved it. Even though literally in history books, William McKinley was murdered because of his economic policies. I literally made a video last year, before Trump was even doing the whole McKinley shtick, where literally I pointed out how Leon Shulgos, the economy was so bad, that is what explicitly led him to kill McKinley. Literally, just the right wing is just completely brain rotted, and they just follow whatever Daddy Trump says. Daddy Trump could literally say anything. Trump, and this is why it's so fucking stupid. He said it in 2016. He said, wow, you guys are so fucking stupid. I could shoot someone in Fifth Avenue and then get all this. Literally, he said that. Exactly like that. Put that on a quote. Put that on a fucking quote thing. Literally, he says tariffs are all these right-wing conservative thinkers who have been conservative diehards their entire lives. They've been fuck tariffs. Tariffs are bad. Free trade is the only way to go. Trump says, we do tariffs now. They're because they have no identity. They just do whatever Daddy Trump says, whatever the big man in charge says, because all reactionary fascists have that same ideological viewpoint. I have no stake in this. I don't care. I accepted defeat years ago, my friend. I'm here watching the fire. I don't plan on having kids. I'm not. You think I'm planning anything for the future at this point, dude? The economy is going to shit now. I have no reason to plan for the future. Sucks for all you guys who actually have shit to care about and money. It's sick. It sucks for all you guys, but it doesn't suck for me. I was broke before all this happened. I'm just here seeing what's happening next. Like, I mean, right now, we're watching the collapse of the American empire. Like, just the objective fact, that is objectively what's happening. The U.S. economy is going to immediate shit in every sense of the word. I think I want to make an episode. I might make an episode just blatantly just be like, yeah, the American empire is falling. Literally, that is it. That is literally what is happening right now. The first thing Trump did in office, like, it's just been a slow, it's not even a slow burn. Like, Trump says, I'm going to do a tariff and I'm going to sanction Colombia. Then magically, Colombia is just like, hey, why don't we possibly not do trade with the United States and start doing trade with the fucking, like, East, with, like, China, with Russia? Why don't we do more trade with them? And by the way, every single left-wing party in Latin America at this point, they literally are just openly like, yeah, we should stop doing trade with the United States and start doing trade with, like, the East now, doing, like, join BRICS or whatever. Claudia Sheinbaum has literally been preparing for Mexico to become self-sufficient and not reliant on the United States because she knew that the Trump administration was going to go to shit. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure she just wanted to do it regardless, but, like, either way, yeah. The Trump administration is going to shit, so it's very clear that they're going to try and cut the ties now. Canada has been really rallying hard about their... Mark Carney, the guy who's possibly going to be the leader of Canada, has said there is no going back on America-Canada relationship. It's done. Our top economic partners are just like, yeah, we kind of don't think you're a good partner anymore. Donald Trump going, hey, worldwide, we're going to not fund you anymore. Like, literally, she's like, USAID, we're going to stop funding you guys in Africa who are dying of AIDS. We're going to stop funding you guys. Meanwhile, China is building their entire infrastructure for free. Granted, I know it's because, like, you want to do trade and want to, like, build relationships with Africa. But yeah, they're just, like, they come to you and be like, we're doing this out of the kindness of our hearts. The United States is not only, they're literally threatening to bankrupt the entire world. And apparently, and there's some conservatives that literally just be like, yeah, that's a perfect thing. It's like, no, that's not how it's going to work. If you're really going to threaten them, they're just going to be like, yeah, fuck you. We don't care anymore. And they leave. Trump goes, hey, I'm not going to fund the WHO anymore. What do you think about that, rest of the world? Okay, China's going to foot the bill now. Now we're indebted to them. NATO has literally openly just said, like, yeah, we're actually going to start opening the possibility of the U.S. leaving NATO. It's like, dude, America would literally be done if that happened. I'm just saying. I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm not even, like, the biggest NATO stan or whatever, but it's like, objectively, U.S. is pulling out of every single thing that makes them important to the rest of the world. And then in the same breath, these dumbass conservatives are still going to pretend like somehow everyone's just going to rush to us? No, that's not how it works. No, and this is the best part. There are conservatives who have unironically said online that the U.S. should stop doing trade with every nation in the world. Do it. Fucking do it. See what happens. I want to see what happens when that happens. Like, genuinely, I want to see what happens and whatever. I just want to see what happens. Alright, so, next news story is coming from the Florida special elections that just happened. There were people who were getting really hyped up about the possibility that Josh Wheel was going to win, especially considering he ran, like, a decent ad campaign. There was a lot of money in his race, and the Republican Party was even scared of the possibility that they would lose this race, to the point where they literally forced one of their, like, Trump appointments to stay in the House of Representatives because they were worried that he would win and that they would lose. But no, that district decided that they would instead pick a guy who literally cheered on the murder, about a murdered Palestinian child. Like, literally, that literally happened. Oh yeah, and the day I'm recording this also, there was, like, this big thing about, like, a bunch of Zionist accounts where they're just being, yeah, the grandson of a Hamas guy was murdered. Yeah! And then you scroll to the comment section, like, you're cheering for a 2-year-old child being murdered. Why would we expect less? Literally, they're Zionists. What do you expect? Another reason why this country's cooked. We literally, like, guy cheering for literal murdered baby. That's not a disqualifier. Now, I didn't really talk about this race because I didn't really have any high hopes, honestly. I didn't have to get hopeful. Why would you expect me to? Why would you expect hope in this generation? Hope is useless. I say that, and then the main topic of this episode is going to be somewhat hopeful, whatever, but, like, guys, were you really expecting Josh Wheel to flip this seat? Come on. I was basically my viewpoint was, if he does, then there's hope for the future. If he doesn't, well, hope for the future doesn't really flip either or. If he wins, you know, there was definitely hope for the future. But if he didn't win, that didn't automatically guarantee that we were doomed. It's basically starting some people like pulling out the numbers and like, oh, he actually did a pretty good for a candidate in this race. It's like, yeah, cool, but he didn't win. Like, I mean, he didn't even get, like, it wasn't even like 49-51. Like, it was like a decent margin. Speaking of a decent margin, Cory Booker decided to do something interesting where for 25 hours, he would filibuster in the United States Senate. And now he holds the record for the longest filibuster, beating Strom Thurmond, who originally had that one. Now, here's a fun fact. I actually planned on making a video where I went over the top 10 longest filibusters in U.S. Senate history, where basically I would take the 10 people who did the longest filibusters in U.S. history and, explain why they filibuster, how long they filibustered for, blah, blah, blah. It was a pretty basic video, not gonna lie. Some of the stories were interesting, but, otherwise, it was a pretty boring video, so it got canceled. But that video would have been outdated because Cory Booker did his thing. Now, there's many things that people might be wondering. Did he do anything? Well, he talked for 25 hours. He didn't really do anything. Like, literally. This is what happened. Cory Booker, what was technically happened was that they were going to do a vote to vote for the fucking head of I think it was the NATO ambassador. And then right before they did the cloture vote, and then Cory Booker said, I'm going to speak for 25 hours. And then 25 hours later, they said, okay, now time to vote for the NATO guy. This speech was literally just the same thing Democrats always do. Things happen, they whine about it, and then they move on. That's literally all that happened. People were trying to pull some BS hope. This speech gives me hope. No, it doesn't. It does not give me hope. It does not give me hope. Literally, Cory Booker just stood there for 25 hours, bullshit to a mic for 25 hours, did nothing, accomplished nothing, nothing happened. Want this to be important? Have Cory Booker be the beginning, and then go alphabetically for the Democratic Senate caucus, and then every day do filibuster. Then, when it comes to the end, redo it, start again, and spend every single day filibustering the Senate. Make sure literally nothing gets done. You hate these actions of the Trump administration so much? Do something. That would be an interesting topic. Maybe an object. I know that's a very alien concept for Democrats, but maybe doing something could actually implement policy changes. Just a crazy idea from a 24-year-old guy. Which maybe you consultants, you guys, when you were pulling for Kamala Harris, that worked really well. When your consultants were saying that Joe Biden didn't have dementia and he had to keep going on and on and on and on, you guys should listen to those guys instead. And again, literally, this did nothing. Cory Booker, he was whining pro-Palestinian protesters, they're being deported. Oh, by the way, I, Cory Booker, voted for the guy who's literally deporting them, by the way. Marco Rubio had a 99-0 vote. He is the guy leading the charge to revoke student visas for these protesters. You voted for him, Cory. And before he even goes to the comment section, yes, 99-0. Bernie was one of the 99. He deserves a blame. If I was in a room with Bernie, I'd say, dude, why the fuck did you do this? That is the dumbest thing. You can't complain about shit you cannot complain about this shit. And also, another thing that shows that this speech is meaningless, Cory Booker, one of the big things about this speech was I'm here to help. There's a United States president. He's violating law and order. We need to maintain law and order. We need to... Oh, by the way, the day after this happens, I'm going to vote to send weapons to a country that is literally currently violating international law right now. So literally, this is fucking meaningless. I know what this is. You guys want to know what this fucking is? This is Cory Booker gearing up for a 2028 run. This is what it is. That's what it is. That's all this is. This means nothing to him. Contrast that with Bernie, who is starting a fucking tour and literally is openly saying, I'm not running for president. Stop pretending I'm running for president. I'm not running for president. He spends more time on his fucking tour saying, I'm not running for president than actually talking about the fucking issue he's talking about. But in the few times he actually gets to talk about the fucking oligarchy issue, he actually talks about the oligarchy issue. Meanwhile, contrasts up with Cory Booker, who's Trump did a bad thing. I voted for the guy who's helping Trump do the bad thing, but he did a bad thing. By the way, 2028, am I right, guys? Cory Booker is a fucking loser. I don't care about this guy. Next news story, coming from North Carolina, where, as it turns out, election rigging is legal. You know, it's always been legal down here in North Carolina. That's what the North Carolina Republican Party loves to do. They don't like winning elections, so they just like to rigging them. That's literally all they fucking do. They have to gerrymander this district so that they have like 9-3. Then also spend time like kicking voters off the voting rolls. For those who don't know, currently North Carolina had a Supreme Court election where the incumbent, Allison Riggs, won a very slim lead over the Republican candidate, Jefferson Griffin. And then Jefferson Griffin claims that conveniently 65,000 voters, conveniently the number that he needs to win, conveniently, that specific number, conveniently, that number, he's like, they don't count. They don't. These ones are a little bit questionable. So I'm gonna challenge them. And sure enough, he just won a case where now 65,000 voters. Now you guys have to go to your state board of elections officials and prove that you are who you say you are. Literally. It's your job to prove that your vote is counted. Otherwise, they will not only throw your vote away, but they'll also take off the voting rolls. By the way, keep that in mind. You have until April 19th to prove you are who you are and that you are legitimately voted. Like, you have to prove that. Despite the fact that they already have the fucking... This is the dumb thing. You guys, like, Republicans, they implemented voter ID laws. It's a safeguard to make sure that voters are verified for who they are and blah, blah, blah. Now we have voter ID laws, and they're still fucking crying. Because that's not the issue they were complaining about. They are afraid that black and brown people vote. That's what they're afraid of. They can't say it. They will gladly do it, but they won't say it because they know that's a losing issue. But that's always everything. That's everything the NCGOP is. That's all it is. Every time the gerrymander, conveniently all the black people get drawn in specific districts. Conveniently they want to do voter ID laws, but they also don't want to help people immediately register so that they can get a voter ID. Seriously, it's just fucking, like, evil. Anyways, let's move on to an issue that is actually somewhat interesting and good. Copyright, because the U.S. Copyright Office has issued a very highly anticipated report on the copyrightability of AI-generated works. I talked about this in my copyright episode, but there's currently a big legal battle over whether or not AI-generated works are copyrightable. And there's been a lot of discussion about it. And there's even been a lot of issues with it. Like, for example, recently, a Korean Institute for Music basically just said, yeah, if you implement AI, if you submit AI like generated songs to us, you could submit it to us, but we will not give you royalties for it because you don't own the copyright to it. And then they even went so far as to say, if you try to lie to us, all your royalties will get revoked. And somehow AI tech bros seem to really not understand this concept, which makes sense considering they're brain-dead idiots who literally can't Google things, so they go to ChatGPT for the answers. But let's explain this very simple rule of copyright. This is the most basic rule of copyright. In order for your works to be copyrighted, you need to be a human. Like, humans can copyright works. Animals can't copyright works. And robots can't either. But of course, the AI tech bros want to say, but we own the work. No, you don't. Much in the same way those fucking, NFT bros were like, we own this JPEG. No, you don't. I'm going to include, I think I'm going to include the full ruling in the description or in a pinned thing, whatever. But, basically, it really, this is, part two. Part one, basically, was kind of basic stuff, and part two was, really getting into the nitty-gritty of this. And it explains very simply, it's the author of a copyrighted work is the person who translates an idea into a fixed, tangible expression entitled to copyright protection. That's where they're that is what it is. There has not been a single case in the United States' history where we have granted copyrighted works to things that were created by non-humans. Because these cases have happened before. The monkey selfie controversy. Literally, the monkey selfie controversy was the biggest ruling in this regard. It's you don't own the right. You didn't take this, you didn't make this, ergo. Literally, if anything, Naruto the monkey owns the copyright. And unless you're willing to give Naruto those rights, unless you're willing to give Naruto human rights, no, it can't be copyrighted then. In my perspective, same as artificial intelligence. Unless you're going to debate me about whether or not artificial intelligence deserves human rights, then any discussion on whether or not the AI work can be copyrighted is ludicrous. Granted, I barely think that works created by humans should be copyrighted. But let's get into it detail. Let's get into it a little bit detailed. Okay, so it says it reaffirms this fact: any work to be copyrightable in the United States, human authorship must contain some degree of originality and cannot merely be the result of time and effort. Literally. And the Copyright Office is actually taking this issue very seriously, and even they have given 3 scenarios in which AI-generated works can possibly qualify for copyright protection. 1. Assistive uses of AI. According to the office, the use of tools to assist rather than stand in for human creativity should not affect the availability of copyright protection for the output. In other words, where a human user references but does not incorporate AI output into development of his or her work of authorship, the office takes the position that such human authored work should be protectable by copyright. So, for example, let's say you were to generate AI prompts relating to a history subject, relating to, whatever, and then it generated stuff. And then you read that, took aspects of it, and then put it into your own creative work. If you generated an AI prompt and then, read bits and pieces of it, or, took the information of it and reworded it to be in a decent way that is unique enough. Much in the same way, if you read a book and then make a review of that book and recap parts of that book, it's not copyright infringement on that book. Number 2, expressive inputs and the resulting outputs, where a human inputs their own copyrightable work in the AI system and that work is perceptible in the output. The office suggests that the human author's creative expression should be protected by copyright, exclusive of any AI-generated output, just as derivative work protection is, limited to the material added by the later author. The office reasons that copyright in AI-generated output should be limited to only the perceptible human expression in that output. So if Nintendo wants to put Mario in an AI-generated prompt and then post those online and sell those, they have the legal right to do so, because they own the original copyright of the original character, so ergo, they can profit off of their own derivative works of that character. And lastly, modifications and arrangements of AI-generated content, where a human author selects or arranges AI-generated material in a sufficiently creative way, such as the resulting work as a whole constitutes an original work of authorship. The human authorship modifications and or arrangements that are entitled to copyright protection, but only to the extent that such modifications and arrangements rise to the minimum standard of originality. The office further notes that the inclusion of elements of AI-generated content in a larger human-authored work, for example the use of AI-generated special effects in a film, should not affect the copyrightability of the larger human-authored work as a whole, excluding any AI effects or artwork. This one is good because I can actually use an example that's on this fucking channel to explain this. Remember my anniversary video that I did, The Ultimate Theory of Multiple Tendencies, where I basically AI generated a singer to do a parody of the song The Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny by Lemon Demon. The only reason I did it was because some dude promised me that he would do it and then he fucking bailed out at the last second and I didn't want to do it myself. Well, I mean, I tried, but then I listened to the audio and I'm like, no. Maybe if I ever did that video again, I might Fiverr someone to do it. I don't know. If I have money at the time, then maybe. But that was very early on in AI generative speech, when that was really early on in the thing. What I did was I basically took because I couldn't do I would put the whole thing in there and then it would just not sound good. I didn't really want to do that anyways. What I did was I took the AI, it's not even really that much of an AI. It's I guess it is an AI. It wasn't AI. It's whatever the fuck it says in the I said it in the video, this audio, singing, sung by this AI. I think it was Uberduck. But I basically took line for line that video and then just went da 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 and then I edited each of the lines together to make it into a somewhat like understandable song. Like, I mean, you tell how it is. You saw how it was in the song, right? Like I took the like when I put it in the AI prompt would say Victor Berger was walking around, but then I would just take that one line and space it out where it'd be like Victor Berger was walking around. And it's back again when the AI used to sound like that. Like, that's why I was like kind of okay with like using AI art, like not AI art, but like AI like voices originally, because like you could tell they were fake. I have like I have a Bernie Sanders, like I have like in my Peter Diamondstone video, I have like an AI generated thing about Bernie Sanders, and he's like, I first met Peter Diamondstone when he was a young, like it sounds like it's clearly his voice, but like it's clearly a robot of his voice. And I'd also usually indicate like if it was AI, like I had like him, like he had a little robot lapel on when I put that together. It was disingenuous to imply that it was like a real quote or whatever. But you can say that video was generated by AI. That's why I kind of like have a slight, like, that's why I didn't until recently like actually like go back to it and then put like that little YouTube disclaimer at the bottom where it's like, this is generated by AI. But because like when YouTube does that, it's like, it puts it for like the whole video. You can't just go, this section was generated by AI, or you can't get more specific. Like I that's why I went back and I put in the description, like, to explain like the process of how I did that video, because like I don't want you guys to get any misunderstandings of like me just like going like make this song and then that, because I wouldn't do that because that's stupid. I mean, it's easy to do. I've done it before. Like I made that literally communism song for like those brief segment for my V for Vendetta episode. Yeah, it's easy to fucking do. I know that it's fucking easy to do, but I gain nothing from that. Why would I gain hearing a cool song? But I don't gain the like satisfaction of like, man, I made this. I mean, actually, I'll be frank. You do kind of get that. And that's why a lot of these AI bros really feel like this like huge like feeling of love for this, because for some reason they look at that and they go, I made this. That's what I literally thought in my head, like I made this when I first made that song. I'm like, wait, no, I didn't make it. The robot did. That's why when I never really uploaded the fucking song, I literally just went, I own no copyright to this work, because I don't. Like, even without the whole, like, fucking, like, you know, copyright, like, is BS spiel, literally just, like, I have no claim for it. I didn't make it. But the ultimate theory of ultimate multiple tendencies can be copyrighted because it is, like, AI was very much just not, like, and that fucking, like, Peter Diamondstone video, that can be copyrighted. Those things can be copyrighted because AI was not used primarily for that video. I still put in the work of putting my blood, sweat, and tears into those videos. You know, I would assume not much, like, of that, but, like, you get my point. I put in the work for that video. The AI, like, those videos could have been made without the fucking AI, and they would have been the same. They just would have been slightly different. Like, I mean, I said two contradictory things. I know, you know what I mean. They basically would be they would be very small, and, like, the differences would be very small. Meanwhile, grab one of these AI bros, put him in front of an AI prompt, and then give him a fucking, like, paintbrush and say, paint the exact same thing. Give me the exact same picture on both sides. Good chance that's not going to happen. You barely get the same thing when you put the same AI prompt into an AI generator. And that's one of the things that this copyright thing says. The office firmly concludes that AI prompts alone do not provide sufficient human control to automatically make a human user of an AI system the author of the output. Yes, 100% true. You do not own the copyright of your fucking AI drawing. You do not own that. If you have a fucking problem with that, change copyright law. But they don't want to change copyright law because changing copyright law would actually involve helping people on the bottom, and they don't want to do that. Alright, with that out of the way, let's move on to the main topic of this video. If you know anything about the left, one of the memes that we all know about them is this. We're notorious for hating each other. Sectarianism is almost one of the cornerstones of leftist thought. Like, I mean, it's just a common meme. Everybody knows this. There's, like, common memes of, like lefties going against each other. Common memes about, like, them fighting each other. And there's even been songs about the subject. J-Reg's Leftist Unity and the classic song Bill Bailey, The Ultimate Sectarian. I don't know if I've coined the joke, but a joke that I've used it before is the fact that there are a lot of left-wing groups that'll get pissy about what shade of red to use on their communist flags. We need not look further than the fact of this question. You want to know how many left-wing parties in the United States there are? And for the record, I'm trying to include ones that are like left-wing to far left, not like center-left liberals. 25 parties are left-wing in the United States. That's just parties. If we were to add organizations, the number would get a lot bigger. And even if you're gracious enough to give Social Democrats that case, the number would get bigger as well. But let's just be a little bit. Let's just be a little bit fair. Okay, how about we shrink that number? How many communist parties are in the United States? 15. Okay, how about let's shrink the number a little bit more? How about just Marxist-Leninist parties? How many Marxist-Leninist parties are in the United States? That should definitely narrow it down, right? 6. I mean, it narrowed it down a bit, but there's still 6 of them. And I mean, on one end, you see that, and then you also get confused because on other ends, you'll see things that like leftists in general advocate for being popular. 86% of voters think that we need to increase the minimum wage. I've yet to meet a leftist ever to say that an increase in the minimum wage is bad. 56% of Americans support a single-payer healthcare model. 55% of Americans support the creation of a Palestinian state. And yet, despite the fact that we keep winning poll number-wise, we keep losing. Why? Some answers are very much obvious, running on the idea that certain things that are considered quote-unquote vital to America are wrong, capitalism, racism, and imperialism, and that we can create a better country without it is a little bit of a problem for the people who benefit from that system. And they are glad to spend as much time and money as it takes to make people not like us rabble-rousers. And there are a lot of different routes that they can use to try and prevent us from gaining ground and getting into power. And one of the biggest routes that they choose to do this is by exploiting the thing that I just mentioned before, sectarianism. Similar to how the ruling class exploits differences based on race, sex, gender, religion, etc., they also benefit from pushing for sectarian divides in left-wing movements, either by exploiting already existing divides or just creating psyops of their own. COINTELPRO is a thing that we cannot forget. And despite the fact that I even made a full video literally trying to be like, don't call everything that you don't like psyops, there are a lot of psyops still out there, my friends. The African People's Socialist Party is literally a Russian bot. That's been proven? Literally? And at this point, I am 100% convinced that Jackson Hinkle is an astroturf by either Trump, Russia, or both. Much like how the proletarian does not have a country of origin, neither does the bourgeoisie. I had the theory a while ago that Trump was astroturfing Hinkle and Haas to push young communists from becoming fascists because they were worried of they're worried about one of them going crazy, and then so they would instead use their time and money to try and make sure that these socially awkward radicals would be on their side. Similar to how they astroturf movements like MitGao and the alt-right and gamers in general, that kind of stuff. It was kind of based on very little except for the fact that they were just quote-unquote MAGA communists. And then also people brought up his relationship with Tulsi Gabbard being the thing that raised eyebrows. And the fact that when he brought up his whole MAGA communism thing, he immediately got a bunch of media inquiries, and also they point out the fact that he had some affiliation with a NGO in the area. But it wasn't until Signalgate that I was basically just I 100% believe this now. In the most honest sense, if you actually pay attention to the Signalgate controversy and then pay attention to Jackson Hinkle, it's just objectively oh my goodness, how could I have not seen this sooner? I don't remember the Signalgate controversy. You probably do, but it was when they accidentally added a journalist to a secret war crime chat room for U.S. intelligence officials, and the messages got leaked. But one of the messages that got leaked was talking about how the CIA was, quote, mobilizing assets for support right before they would launch an attack against the Houthis, and how they would use, quote, additional time to identify better starting points for coverage of Houthi leadership. A week after this got leaked, and during the attack, Jackson Hinkle was literally holding meetings with Houthi leadership. conveniently, literally at the exact same, almost the exact same places the U.S. was bombing, but always, conveniently, they bombed before he got there or after he left. Conveniently, he was never in the same area. No, I mean, literally, I was looking at it and it was literally just like, one day he'd say, like, I'm in this area, and then the next day that area would get bombed. It's like, what? With another thing being very obvious is the fact, like, Donald Trump is trying to make this big spiel about, like, terrorist sympathizers, like, trying to claim all people who support Palestine are Hamas sympathizers, how they're, like, sympathizing with terrorists, blah, blah, blah. Well, at the same time, Jackson Hinkle will literally tweet out that he supports certain terrorist groups around the world. Like, just literally. I get Jackson passes the whole fucking, like, Family Guy, like, color meme, but, come on. I'm just saying. It seems a little bit suspicious. But this episode isn't focused on the idea of, like, infiltrators, particularly there specifically to, like, make them look bad. I'm talking about, like, them exploiting specific actual, like, disagreements, whether it be on policy, ideology, rhetoric, praxis, whatever. Like, them exploiting real divides to, like, stoke and, like, divide and conquer, essentially. This message is directed at you. Yes, you, the listener watching this who's a left-winger, who's probably gotten into a Twitter altercation with some person of your opposing left-wing ideology. If you're a hammer and sickle person, you got mad at a rose person. If you're a rose person, you got mad at a hammer and sickle guy. If you're either of those guys, you get mad at the person with a black flag in their bio. I have a very simple message for you all right here, right now. Just stop. No, seriously, stop. 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 Stop fighting. Stop it. While you're sitting here debating about whether or not a particular text written by some random guy in 1879 was better than the one written by a different guy responding to the first guy because they were too autistic to get outside and talk to each other in person, rich people are literally burning the planet down. Really? Is that the best use of your fucking time? Arguing with people that you agree with on like 60% plus of the issues? Why not instead spend that time, working with these people to actually do something useful? Coming from personal experience, there are a lot of left-wing groups and figures right now that I legitimately cannot stand because a majority of their time is spent just attacking the ones who are doing stuff and would rather spend their time being their little cliques, doing their own little, like, newspapers. Like, why are you fucking making a party newspaper? Literally, a newspaper. That's not helpful at all. Why are you making a newspaper that talks about how some random politician you don't like did a bad thing instead of, maybe organizing a rally protesting that politician, or maybe, like, anything useful, or organizing for an issue, or anything. Some people go to the comments and then say, like, oh, well, you're just trying to defend your favorite people. No, I'm not. This isn't it. Even ones I don't like. Why are you spending your time shitting on them when they're doing something? Like, literally. I don't want to name a lot of names, but, like, there's a specific group. There's a specific, like, activist. Like, here, I'll give some examples. There's a specific activist group. It's a pretty prominent activist group. It's an acronym and it's a word. It's an acronym and a word. You know what the word is? It's a common word, and the acronym probably gives you the fact that it's an acronym probably gives you an answer. Okay. Said activist group is formed and maintains a close relationship with a particular party that I'm not really a particular fan of. Guess what? Why would I shit on this? Why would I shit on this coalition? Because this coalition's actually doing something. The party, not really doing that much. The coalition is better, actually advocating, actually activism, doing actual things. At least then they're actually doing something. Not to name names. Let's use another example. I want you all to close your eyes. Picture two prominent leftist streamers. Just imagine two prominent leftist streamers. No names, but they're both male. They both have prominent beards. They're both in their early 30s, known for being a little edgy and also having controversies regarding a liberal former associate of theirs. People that I've covered on this channel in the past. Not naming names, but picture them in your head. Close your eyes, picture them in your head. Whether you love one, you love the other, or you love them both or hate them both. I personally don't really care about them either or. I don't care about them at all, really. But one of these guys prominently organizes telethons and, like, organizes like phone banking for candidates to implement political change. The other uses platform to shout out multiple forms of direct action, donate, fundraise, and bring certain issues to light, actually using their platforms to do something useful. Meanwhile, others use their platform to say, these 5 politicians actually doing something good? They suck. Join our 100-member political party today. Which of these two sounds like they're actually more interested in helping their ideology and movement, and which one sounds not interested in that at all? Like, which sounds like it's like building the so-called solidarity that leftist thought cries about so much, and which one says, actually, we want to be our own little club and just do our own thing? I wonder. Like, no offense, but calling me a fascist for stating, this one guy who said he was a communist and like 50 million years ago did a bad thing. That's kind of cringe. Saying, you're actually just as bad as Hitler for saying that. Is it really? Really? Is that the best use of your time? Is that supposed to like win me over to like support your cause or something? Like what? Maybe a strategy of, hey, even though we have some differences, we're broadly ideologically running for the same goals, so let's work together to try and implement these changes. I wonder if that strategy is known to work. Let me look through some history. Let's see if it works. Socialist Party of America, very broad in its sort of socialistic leanings in the 1910s and 20s. Pretty prominent, yeah. Then, during the 30s, they got a bit more sectarian and less open, and the party's support started dropping. Okay, how about the Communist Party of America? They were originally very sectarian, then Earl Browder came in and pushed for a strategy of working across certain ideological lines and even partisan lines and forming coalitions for broader ideological goals. The party's support shot up immensely. Morena in Mexico built itself up as an organization where people aligned with basic principles, and currently they're winning massively. The Frente Amplio in Uruguay is, as the name suggests, a broad front, Frente Amplio, of a bunch of smaller political parties of various ideological markings that united together rather than arguing against each other. Gabriel Boric's victory in Chile necessitated a bunch of left-wing parties coalesce together to stop the fascists. Lula's victory in Brazil needed a bunch of left-wing parties and even parties beyond the left to join and support a coalition with him to defeat fascism. While I'm at it, the Pink Tide in general is very much well known for their strategy for a long time of solidarity, where even though there were ideological divides amongst individual members, Chavez versus Mujica, Lula versus Morales, Morales versus Chavez, whatever, they all still stood hand in hand fighting for the same goal. The ideology of socialism of the 21st century is based on somewhat broad principles that left-wing figures and movements all across Latin America can get behind. The French left formed a coalition in the 2024 snap elections and managed to take parliament very easily. And Fred Hampton literally managed to build inroads with a group of Confederate flag-waving rednecks and convert them into anti-racist socialists by working across basic principles that were broadly good for him. And not just him, but also them. Alright, let's compare that to the perspective of everyone who disagrees with us is evil, and the only route for victory is supporting our specific niche ideology or group. Socialist Labor Party, that's the prime example for me. The Socialist Labor Party refused to adapt, build bridges with anybody, and literally what started out as America's first socialist party ended with a fucking whimper. The Socialist Workers' Party decided that in the rising discontent with Israel, they would be the lone voices on the left to stand up for Israel as opposed to Palestine. They got a little over 4,000 votes in the most recent election. The Socialist Workers' Party has at least 4 dissident parties who left because of ideological purity. They felt the SDP was not ideologically pure enough for their specific niche of like whatever the fuck they believed in. So they're like, let's form new political parties. Workers' World Party, Freedom Socialist Party, and Socialist Action are all basically dead in the water. And the only one that is really active to my knowledge is the Socialist Equality Party, which spends 99% of their time basically saying, hey, everybody else on the left is wrong, but we're the right ones. And they also got a little over 4,000 votes. Communist Party of America was told to shift away from their broad front strategy to become more stringent and orthodox. Party support plummeted massively. Kshama Sawant spent an entire decade building up the socialist alternative, and now she's torn it all down to build something new for vague reasons of ideological purity. Remember that whole thing I said about France before? Well, the only reason why they ended up doing that was because in 2022, they had the brilliant idea of having a bunch of left-wing parties run against each other because they couldn't agree on broad ideological ideas. And literally, they were so close to making it to the runoff against Macron, and even possibly winning, that was the one route that no one ever considered, and it could actually be an interesting route, but no. Due to that fact that they were all ideologically divided and couldn't agree on basic principles, they went with this route. The pink tide nowadays is a lot more noticeably divided over issues, valid or not. Now many of the figures openly attack each other. It's not necessarily a tide anymore, more of an individual wave. And Ernst Thälmann refused to work with the Social Democrats in the 1930s because he viewed them as basically just as bad as Nazis. I wonder what happened after that strategy. Look, I'm just saying, one strategy seems to be working better than the other. Divided, we are weak. Together, we are strong. That's why the powers that be spend so much time propping up people, giving us momentary distractions from the actual issues at hand. And that is a big reason why we fail, or at the very least, the only one we could fix. Rather than spending our time arguing against other poor plebeians, maybe focus our attention on the bigger fish, actually organize rallies, forming or joining unions, maybe work electorally, anything. But no, we can't even do that, because some people are literally to the point where they're just like, no. You see, the idea that you would even consider doing two things at once is wrong. We have to put all of our eggs in this specific basket. Your strategy of running a candidate pales to comparison to my strategy of saying mean words on podcasts. That'll definitely win people over, baby. But more likely, you'll see people go like, no, you see, this direct action is stupid. Let's do purely electoralism. Electoralism is stupid. Let's do purely activism. No, neither of these strategies are useless. The idea that you would even say that is a privileged talking point. Not only do material conditions in the immediate front get affected, depending on who's in charge, but literally in the broader stroke of things, if they, it's one thing I hear a lot about the anti-electoralists. They always say stupid shit like, if voting was an actual thing that would actually change things, why would they ban it? Ignoring the fact that their Republican Party has literally been spending all of its time and money to make sure less people turn out to vote, that it's harder to vote, that the vote should be, literally, they're spending all this time making it basically borderline illegal to vote. And yet you're still sitting there like, if it was actually a viable strategy, they'd make it illegal. They're literally trying to do that right now. Remember when Hitler literally banned every single political party in the Reichstag except for the Nazi Party? I wonder if maybe he was afraid that possibly, hypothetically, that maybe if people had another option from him, that he might lose. I wonder. All of these strategies are useful tools. That's one of the big points of fucking solidarity, remember? The whole point of solidarity, we all have different things. We're all in different sections of the United States. We're all in different sections of the world. We're all in different, fields. Some people are in STEM fields. Some people are in labor fields. Some people are in, YouTube. All of us, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we all have the same common goal. Me ranting on YouTube, some guy in the shipyard organizing a rally, college kids with Free Palestine sign, some urban DSA running for school board. We might all be fighting on different sides of the country, but we all agree on the end goal. We all agree on the end goal. We're all fighting for the same thing, essentially. Society right now is not fair. And a better society is worth fighting for. One that isn't built for the rich and powerful and instead helps little guy. And this is a message that resonates with people. It's why people on the right, like liberals and conservatives, have to pretend to be us. Republicans have to pretend that they're really trying hard to fight for the little guy when they're not. And a lot of liberals literally have to pretend to be us. Literally. This is a message that resonates with people when you work past the propagandization. The best part is, in order to do that, you don't have to do much. You actually don't have to do much to actually do that. If you're a candidate or if you're an activist who's trying to organize rallies and stuff, you literally don't have to do much. You have to just go on just start off by running on and being active for very basic principles. 1. Make healthcare a human right, not a privilege. 2. Oppose war. 3. Combat climate change. 4. Get money out of politics, rail in corporations. 5. Fight for the oppressed against the oppressor. You can always run on and advocate for more, or you can be more specific in those like 5 major like broad principles. But my point about this is this: I bring up those 5 things for a reason, because those are very basic things that you can even literally, I could go up to a person who doesn't identify as a leftist and then give them these 5 talking points, and they can probably go like, yeah, I agree, yeah, that makes sense, yeah, I like that. And then maybe they join you. Maybe they be like, yeah, I'll go in this march with you. Yeah, maybe this candidate is actually somewhat useful. Yeah, I might vote for them. Yeah. And this is where it starts. This is where it starts, my friends. You got those 5 principles. All right. Now here's what you do. You got 2 things you can do, but realistically, you should do both of them, just not in that specific way. Okay. First, for the while, you got to start off by just stick to campaigning on these issues. You know. Stick to campaigning on these issues that have roots in leftist political thought. Reap the benefits from that. If they like you, maybe they vote for whatever candidate is fucking prominent for you in that area. If you're organizing a rally, maybe you do get enough people to join that rally. If you're a person trying to start a union, you're bringing on basic things like, hey, let's increase our wages. Yeah, that's a good idea. Now you got more people join your union. All right. Then once you start that, you can start slowly seeping in ideas to them. You get the chance to explain to them, why are these things like this? Why capitalism and socialism are actually intrinsically linked to these 5 specific issues. You can explain how the private healthcare companies are price gouging people, and the economic system that exists now allows for 68,000 people a year to die because they can't afford to go to a doctor. You can explain how the economic system that exists now allows and incentivizes more wars that military contractors can use to make more money, to the detriment of not only the people who we are hurting overseas, but also the people here who are getting affected because losing money, and putting a bunch of people in wheelchairs that didn't need to be there. Show how rich people are literally poisoning the earth and how it's causing all these big medical problems that you're seeing now. A lot of people are being really concerned, like, man, why are all these health things going on? Could it possibly have to do with the fact that the millions of tons of carbon in the air are being put in? People who complain about microplastics now bring up the fact, like, yeah, why do all these corporations make so much plastic that now literally a ton of it ends up in our fucking liver? All of those above issues can be solved by finally holding corporations and the rich accountable and fighting the power that they have over our politicians, and show how historical trends of oppression that are usually pushed onto us by the rich and powerful who want to keep us divided so that they aren't afraid of us. And in order to be free from that control they have is to be free from oppression of all forms. That works better than them getting mad that they didn't already know that and calling them evil and fascists. I wasn't as base as I am now. Hold your gasps. I know. I wasn't always the base person you see today, my friends. But I learned and I adapted. And the best part about learning is you never stop. Now, the thing is, me saying this does not mean certain things. It does not mean that you're not allowed to criticize figures, parties, groups, ideologies, etc. Nor does this mean that you let people who are obviously grifters and not really interested in the cause and you're trying to use it for clout to get a pass. Nor is this me advocating for you to sell out your principles for gain. By no means I do not sign off on any of that shit. That is stupid. In fact, quite the opposite. I encourage criticism. We cannot get better if we're not able to critique each other. Like literally, if we are approaching at it from an actual interesting stance and an actual positive stance, then yes, we can get better through criticism. Calling out the grifters you see, they are the distractions. They're part of the distractions to the goals that we need to fight for. And cutting them out is the only way we can heal. And selling out your principles literally leads to your ideology failing. So I don't believe in any of those things. Like, I don't believe in selling out. That's like definitely not. If you're a communist, I'm not saying stop being communist. I'm saying you gotta reword your arguments and not immediately get mad that not every single person agrees that every single communist figure in the world wide has been a saint and that they're just being brainwashed by American propaganda. I'll give one example from me, like copyright. Like, I gotta be real. My stance on copyright is apparently foreign to basically everybody, not just on my political aisle, but on everyone else's political aisle too. Nobody seems to agree with my particular stance on copyright. And if I were to start an organization or whatever to advocate for my particular issues on copyright, then there's some people who probably would not agree with me, and they might not want to be part of me, like my group or my organization or whatever. Might not want to give me the time of day, even people who are allegedly on my side. But I have absolutely no intentions of selling out my ideas in regards to that. Nor am I saying that you're not allowed to criticize me for that stance. You can criticize me if you want, and we're open to discussion to talk about it. I'm not going to sit there and immediately go like, you are fake leftists. There's the fact that you don't already understand that this stance on copyright is like quintessentially important to socialist and leftist thought. How can you claim to be a real socialist if you don't blah, 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 blah? Rather, again, let's talk. I can make it a learning experience for you. I can explain why. And then you can either agree, disagree, and then maybe we'll get a better understanding. Why not? That's an interesting concept, right? And I can do the same for all the other things I said in this video. I can say why certain socialists aren't socialists. I can say why supporting another nation's imperialism isn't in fact benefiting the cause of anti-imperialism. I can do that. Literally. I can explain why the copyleft open culture, free culture movement is intrinsically linked with the ideals of socialism. We can discuss, debate, or whatever. Like, literally, we are open to discussions, debates, or whatever. I mean, sadly for me, it would have to be through YouTube comments or tit-for-tat commentary videos because my internet's not good enough for, like, IRL debates, literally, for some reason. Like, I mean, and there's, like, a little bit of a debate that I saw where, like, some people, like purity tests, like, but pure, like, there's, like, two sides where it's, like, the argument are saying, like, purity tests are bad, but then on the other side, we're seeing people like, well, yeah, but then how can we, like, verify if these guys are good? But it's like, look, I gave you those 5 principles. Those 5 broad principles, I think, are broadly just fine for using, like, to understand, like, if you're a good person or, like, a good, like, political commentator, like, political whatever. To me, if you are a socialist or a leftist in general, you have to agree with those 5 principles. If you don't agree with those 5 principles, you cannot be a leftist. You just cannot. You're not a leftist, you're not a socialist, you're not an anarchist, and you're not whatever specific, like, tiny specific branch of socialism or anarchism or communism that you are. You're just not. There is just no way you are. That is just antithetical. There's no such thing as an anti-woke socialist. If you're going to throw one minority group under the bus, what makes you think that I think that you're going to be worthwhile fighting for any of the other ones? What makes you think that? I'm not saying limit yourself to those things. I'm just saying those are a good starting point. You're free to do more, but you're free to be more specific. Like, yeah, I know. I know that you guys are lefties. You guys are going to be a lot more specific. You're going to go into like 15 million different things, but like, you gotta remember, just like, I'm kind of like basing this on like campaigns, but this isn't like purely just about like electoral campaigns. But I'm just saying, like, let's say you are a political candidate. Those 5 things should be on the top of your site. Maybe the rest of your stuff can be like in a drop-down menu. I'm just saying. And I am gonna try to. I'm gonna try the best of my ability to not like fall in the traps. Like, I mean, I've tried my best to like stop engaging with like arguments online. I've tried. Like, I mean, I'll still again call out obvious grifters. But I mean, if you're an honest and good faith person, then I'm not gonna immediately get into like a bad faith argument with you. There's no reason for that. Now, I'd argue that I have been doing that for all this time, and I don't need to state this again. But I know that there's a good chance that I've probably let some good faith people slip through the cracks. I'm just saying. Because again, at the end of the day, is fighting with a person with a hammer and sickle emoji in Twitter really a useful use of my time? It's why I originally shifted away from the thoughts on podcasts in general, and it's why my podcasts have kind of like shifted a lot more to like discussing issues and stuff, because like that's more useful, that's more actually like good for the world. And hopefully we'll all keep this lesson, and we'll all move forward, and lefties will somehow use this to win. But realistically, we know that's not going to happen. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify when a future video comes out. And if you want more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.